Hey everyone, welcome back to EduC. In today's video, we are going to create an exciting project in Scratch. It's the famous Squid Game. This game is all about timing. Players can run only when the doll is facing away. If they move when the doll looks back, they are out. I have added all the sprites and sound files in the description box below, so don't forget to download them before starting. Alright, let's get started. Open your Scratch project. First, delete the cat sprite. Try to upload the given sprites. The doll sprite with two costumes, front and back. The player sprite with two costumes, standing and running. A run button and a red stop button. And of course, a simple white backdrop for the background. We'll also add a music file to play during the game. Have you done? Great. Let's start building the logic. When the green flag is clicked, we begin by setting a variable called lights to 5. This means there are 5 number of players in the game. Next, we use a repeat until loop which keeps running the game until the player's lives drop to 0. Inside the loop, the character first switches its costume to back. This means it's not watching the player. Then, the game plays a suspenseful sound from the Squid Game. We then wait for a random time between 2 to 7 seconds to make the gameplay unpredictable. After that, the character switches to the front costume. Now it's facing the player and movement will be detected. To make this moment clear, all sounds are stopped immediately. Next, the program broadcasts a message called check. This message is to check whether the players are running or not. Then the program waits for another random time between 1 to 3 seconds before starting the next cycle. This loop continues until the player has no life. Before the actual game begins, we need to make sure our player is ready. When the green flag is clicked, the sprite switches its costume to stand. This ensures the player is starting with the correct appearance. Next, we set the Y position to -128, which places the sprite at the bottom of the screen. This creates a clear starting point for the gameplay. Finally, we use the show block to make sure the sprite is visible when the game begins. The runners can only run when the doll faces backward. So, when the run button is clicked, we broadcast a message button click to the doll. We will also create a variable is running for us to track whether the player is running or not. Is running is equals to 0 when the players are stationary and it is equals to 1 when they are on the run. Now let's move on to the doll. When the sprite receives the button click message, it is going to check the costume number whether it is 2. This means the doll is facing away, not watching the players. Using the if then block, I'm going to check whether the costume number is equals to 2 or not. If this condition is true, we set the variable is running to 1. This tells the game that it's now safe for the players to move. Then we broadcast a message called run. Which will be received by all the players to make the sprite run. Now let's see how the players are moving. When the player receives the message run, inside a forever loop, the sprite waits for 0.1 seconds. This small delay keeps the movement smooth. Then the sprite switches to the next costume, making it look like the player is running. At the same time, the sprite moves up by 0.5 on the y-axis. Making it slowly move toward the top of the screen. Since all the 5 players uses the same script, they all move together when the game allows them to run. Alright, now let's talk about the cross button you can see on the screen. This button is actually a stop control for our game. When we click it during the gameplay, it sends a signal to stop the players from running. Let's make the code. When the sprite is clicked, we set the isRunning variable to 0. This tells the game that players are no longer allowed to move. Then we broadcast a message called stop. This message will be received by all the players so they can freeze in place. Let's go back to the very beginning when the green flag is clicked. First, we show the doll sprite. Then we switch the backdrop to backdrop 1. Next, we set the variable is running to 0. This makes sure that no player is allowed to run at the beginning. Now, here is something important. We are using a list called runner list to keep track of all the 5 players in the game. The code starts by deleting all the items in the list, just in case there were any leftover values from the previous round. Then we add player numbers 1 to 5 into the list, one for each runner in the game. List can be used later to check or control each player. For example, to see who moved or who's still in the game. Now, let's see what happens when the doll turns around to check the players. When the doll receives the message check, it checks if his running is equals to 1. That means whether the players are moving. If yes, the doll waits for a short time, just zero point 0.2 seconds. Then chooses a random player from the list. So now let's create a variable in the name remove and let's set the random player to the remove. So according to the length of the list, it is going to choose a random player in the runners list. The doll broadcasts the random player. And then it removes the random player from the runner list. And now let's reduce the lives by 1. Next, the doll tells everyone to stop and sets is running to 0. So no one else can move. Next, the doll tells everyone to stop and sets is running to 0, which means no one else can move. And while reducing the lives, it checks whether the lives is equals to 0. If all lives are gone, the doll switches the backdrop to game over. The game also sends a message game over and stops everything. So this is how the doll catches players and ends the game if needed. Now let's see what happens in all the player sprites when the game sends messages. Before that, let me hide the runner list. Alright. When the player receives the message 1, they simply hide from the screen. This usually means that this player is out of the game. Similarly, do it for all the players. Now, when the player receives the message stop, two things will happen. First, it stops everything else that the player sprite was doing. Then it switches to a standing costume, so the player looks like they stopped moving. So, if the player is out, they hide. If the doll says stop, the player stands. Now, the game is sending a game over message. As soon as this message is received, all the 5 players hide, the doll also hides, the horizontal line disappears, even the run and the cross buttons are gone. And for the player 1, and now it's time for the button and the horizontal line. But one more thing, the horizontal line needs to appear when the green flag is clicked. And finally, the game logo appears with a cool graphic effect. Let's make the whirl effect. And to make it appear, add a show block. One more thing to do. Initially, the game logo needs to disappear. So let's make it hide. That's how the game over message works in the game. Everything hides and the logo takes the spotlight. And all the players are in the green color. If any player touches the horizontal line, something exciting happens. So let's check whether the players are touching the horizontal line or not. A message called winners is sent to all the sprites and wait for 3 seconds. The doll gets the message and it says you win for 3 seconds. So, When I receive winners, let's say you win for 3 seconds. It also plays the triumph sound until done. Then the game is over. All other sprites hide from the screen. Now the logo appears with a nice graphic effect. Now let's play the game. Okay, let's click the green flag and start the game. Okay, let's click the green flag and start the game. 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. 무궁화 꽃이 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. 무궁화 꽃 무궁화 꽃 무궁화 꽃이 피었습니다. 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 무궁화 꽃 We did it. The game works perfectly. Try it out, play with your friends and have fun. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to EduSeed for more fun game videos. Thank you for watching. See you next time.